Hello, everyone. My name is Malcolm Clark. I'm an English filmmaker. Currently, I'm living in Shanghai, making films about China, and it's a great pleasure to be answering questions of Guan Media, it's a company I admire, so I'm happy to be here. You know, your athletes are telling the story for you. The notion that these Olympics went ahead at all when the country is still fighting COVID, the fact that your government said, no, we're going to do this. We're going to guarantee people's safety. We're going to bring them in. We're going to put them in a kind of bubble, and they're going to be safe, and we'll look after them, and we guarantee that. If they didn't do that, people would not have come. They'd have said, we're too frightened. The Chinese don't know what they're doing. And for the last 2 years, I've lived in China, living a very normal life here in China. Occasionally, I have to wear a mask. I can go to a restaurant when I want. I can walk the street. I can walk my dog. I can do whatever normal people all over the world cannot do, because China is looking after me and the rest of the country. So people trusted China. I mean, a few diplomats said, oh, we're going to boycott. Well, let them boycott. Let them make their silly gesture. But the athletes wanted to perform. The athletes have spent 4 years training and working hard, and they wanted to show what they could do. And they came and they did it. And China has done very well. Indeed, for a country that did not know what a ski or a snowboard or an ice rink was a few years ago, China is doing fantastically well. And I think in the next Winter Olympics it will do even better, because now 300 or 400 million people are interested in winter sports, which is great. So I think it's very easy to throw snowballs at someone, but the truth of the matter is that China staged a remarkable feat by keeping 1,000 athletes and God knows how many officials plus the Chinese public safe, and they're to be commended for doing that. I read the New York Times every day because I used to live in America for so many years. So I still read the New York Times. The New York Times is an absolute enemy of China. It doesn't equivocate. It looks for a way to spin a story with a negative effect. So what could they do with the Olympics? It's such a joyous occasion. Everyone seems to be having a great time. But the New York Times says, oh, China had to manufacture snow, so it's the huge environmental impact of all this water being used to manufacture snow because there wasn't enough snow. I mean, it was childish. The approach was infantile and insulting to its readers. Congratulations to China, congratulations to its athletes, and congratulations to all the people who came to China and were not influenced by the negative publicity, because they were trying everything they possibly could to destabilize these games. And thank goodness they failed. Well, the problem with making someone look perfect or lofty is that we're all too smart for that. My life is not perfect, and I am not lofty. Neither is yours. Now, these two guys here. We all have imperfections, and one of life's great joys is overcoming those imperfections. A life is a work in progress. We never really reach nirvana. We never really reach the perfect state, and that's what makes life worth living and makes life interesting. I feel very strongly that I know that China has come basically from nothing. When the Communist Party took this country on a different direction after 1949. It was all uphill. It was a huge, huge journey. And they made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I think, you know, any honest member of the Communist Party would say, yeah, we made mistakes, we screwed up, but look where we are now, which is a state of grace, which is historic in all aspects. But I see the way people are living, and I see the hope and the positive energy of young people. And I see that this country is heading in absolutely the right direction. And I think a life is the same. A life is an uphill journey where we have to conquer our frailties and our insecurities and our fears and our imperfections and make ourselves better people as we get older. And I think it's fine to talk about your failings, and it's fine to talk about the mistakes you've made. If you don't admit to that, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to the audience as well, because the audience, it's, you know, they know what their parents are like, they know what they are like, their brothers, their sisters. Everybody is struggling to live a better life and to be better people. If you don't do that, the audience think that you're not telling the truth. And I think when they think you're not telling the truth, if they lose faith in you, it's very hard to get them back. Propaganda is not the truth. The propaganda is a version of the truth that has been polished and airbrushed, and it's like the front page of a fashion magazine, which the government or whomever's making the propaganda wants you to maybe aspire to and maybe believe. But unfortunately, you know, even people without very much education, they can smell it. They can smell it, and they know that it's propaganda, and then they don't quite believe it. And it's just like, it's like going to the market and saying, you know, look at these fantastic apples, and underneath there's a bruise on the apple. But the guy is telling you that they're marvelous apples, and you put them in your bag, you take them home, and you say, oh, hang on a second, he sold me a... That's what propaganda is. Propaganda is putting your apples with the good face out. But sometimes the other side of the apple is not quite so pretty. And that person's not going to come back and buy apples from that guy again. Under any circumstances, we need to trust the people. The people are smarter than you think. They don't need to be spoon-fed. Thanks to the Communist Party of China, they have a fantastic education also. Then they know how to read, they know how to see the world. Maybe it was easier 25 years ago and politically necessary also, I would think. Propaganda needed to bring the nation together. But, you know, the nation is together. Almost everybody I speak to has nothing but the highest regard for the government of this country and what the government has achieved. Because everybody I meet, and I mean everybody, is living a better life than their family lived 20, 30, 40 years ago. Everyone's standard of living, everyone's standard of education, everyone's standard of health care, it's all got remarkably better. And so I do think people can be trusted, because if you trust them, they do think very highly of the people running this country. I mean, in my country, in Britain, the people despise their government because the government lie to them all the time. And that's, you know, that's not a good situation. You know, there has to be a bond, there has to be a pact between the people and the people running. And the people running the country are running the country for the people. And if it shakes that bond, if you start to test that bond, that's a very, very difficult situation. That does not exist in China. People really have a huge amount of gratitude and respect for what has happened here. You know, if I say anything good about China, there's a certain constituency in the West that thinks that, oh, you've been bought and paid for by China. You're in the pay of the Chinese government. And that's okay, I don't care, because they're stupid. I'm not bought and paid for by anyone. I have a free voice. I criticize China, but when I criticize China, it's always with respect, and it's always constructive criticism, because I want to see China get better. I don't think that Chinese media is great. I don't think that Chinese television and the way it propagandizes its message, I just don't think it's productive. It's not that I think it's bad. I think they do a great job at what they do, but it's not productive. And I don't make propaganda. I just tell the truth. The problem is if you tell the truth, and the truth happens to be that China's doing well, you find you have enemies very quickly. I frankly don't care what people say about me. I'm too old, and I'm too experienced, and I, you know, I'm secure enough in my career and in my profession. I think for China it's different. China does have to care, but it does not have to defend itself in the way that it does defend itself by continuing to propagate these propagandist myths. I have a sense of regret that China isn't more self-confident and proud of its achievement. It's the insecurities of China hurt nobody except the Chinese. So, I mean, the Beijing Olympics is a perfect example of China showing its best, you know, on a level playing field compared to all the other Olympics, and all. China has done a brilliant job. The Chinese athletes have done a brilliant job. That's where China speaks for itself, and it should be proud of itself. You know, it's getting more and more difficult to tell Chinese stories in the West because people don't want to listen. It's like, oh, you don't need to tell me about China. I know about China. China's a terrible place. It's like, but why don't you just look at this movie? And then maybe they don't want to look. I think the truth is that they actually do know the truth and they don't want to face it. It's very hard when the truth is something that means that you and your life and your country isn't going to be anymore the preeminent power on the planet. It's a very hard thing to swallow when everything you have learned since you were in grade school is that you're in the best place in the world. You're the luckiest person in the world. Your parents are doing better than all the other parents in the world. That is the conceit of the American dream. And in Britain, you know, we're kind of like a satellite of the American. We always aspired to be like them because their lives are a little bit better than ours. And so, you know, it's very hard to swallow those kind of realities. It's like taking a tablet, taking a pill. If it tastes nasty, you don't want to swallow it. But it is the reality, and over the next 50 to 100 years, I don't think this is a zero-sum game. I don't think the rise of China means that America's going to go like this. I just think there are going to be 2, maybe 3 with Europe, if Europe kind of grows and is more productive. But there are 3 power kind of nexuses in the world, and they will learn to live with each other and to work with each other. And I think that's the way it should be. You know, a unipolar, single superpower world, which we've had since the fall of the Soviet Union, is a very scary place because it gives that culture and that country a huge amount of dominion over everyone's life on the planet. And I just don't think that's healthy.